Alright, so this guy is really starting to look like a guitar, and I'm pretty excited about it. But unfortunately, we can't put strings on this thing until we have pegs in those holes. And to add those pegs, there are several ways we could do it. Okay, so what a lot of people would do, probably what most people would do, is just model the peg completely separately in its own document, and you just would write down, how much draft is in here, and then use that draft angle when you're modeling your peg, and throw it in there, and bam, it would work. And that is perfectly fine. In fact, that might even be the cleanest way to do this. I don't know. That's a possibility. Another way you could do it would be to, say, open up your peg here, and you can see that I've hidden everything except for the peg surface and the face of the headstock. But you could just model this right here, and if we model that right in place right there, if I close this up, if I show that right here in my assembly, then you would see the peg pop up right in the correct spot, already ready to go, and we could just duplicate it down the line on both of these guys, and that would be great too. So that's another, perfectly valid way to do this. But I actually want to do this in a slightly more difficult way, just to make your life hard, just because I like making your life difficult. No, I actually think that, there are some advantages to doing it this way, and you can call me crazy for doing it. So you do not have to do your modeling in this kind of wacky method I'm about to show you, but you'll know that it's there in case you want it. So here's the thing. I like having my geometry centered in its own part. So I would prefer for this geometry to be centered around the front, right, and top planes of the part, so that the origin of the part is right in the middle of our peg, rather than being way over here while the peg is way off on the side. That kind of bugs me. But I also want to make sure that I'm maintaining this original shape, this draft angle, and if this were a more complicated shape, a keyed shape, or some other such thing, then I would still want that surface. So what I'm going to do is actually move this to the center of the document. And that's actually not as hard to do as you might think. There are two things we need to do first, though. First, let's create a split line. It's going to be an intersection line between the face plane for the headstock and our surface. It's going to give us just a split line right down the middle here. That'll be useful to us in a little bit. And after that, I can hide that surface because I don't need it anymore. Now, also, I'm going to need an axis. So let's create an axis between the right and front planes in the center of our world. And now we're ready to move this guy. So I'm going to grab my Move tool, Move/Copy Bodies. And if you're wondering where that is, you could find it under Insert, Features, Move/Copy, or in the Direct Editing tab under Move/Copy, whichever you like. Under Bodies to Move, of course, I'm going to grab that sheet body. And then click on Mate Settings. Now, if you don't have Mate Settings visible, it's possible that yours will look something more like this, where you have a Translate and a Rotate tab underneath. If you see Translate and Rotate, click on Constraints, and that's going to let us put constraints on this guy and actually line it up relative to real-world geometry. So what we want to do is put a constraint between this axis that we created and the conical face of our part there. You can see that it has moved it so that that conical face is now running right along that axis. All right, that's good. And now we want to do the Move Copy again, moving that same body. And in the Mate Settings, this time, we're going to grab that split line that we created right there. We're going to make it coincident with the top plane so that our little piece of geometry moves right down there. Click OK, F for Zoom Fit. And now we have a peg centered on the world for this object. Now, obviously if I close this, and we'll save what we've done, then our peg is in the wrong place, right? It's way down here at the origin. But that's kind of what I want. So I'm going to right-click this guy in my Feature Manager Design tree and go down to Float. Once this guy is floating, then I can actually drag it around. So I could drag it over here, for example. Oh, let's get the part. Drag the part over here. I can drag it, I can rotate it, I can mate it. So I could even mate it right into where I want this to be. So for example, what I think I want to do is I'm going to show actually my master model for a second here and expand it. I'm going to grab the under Reference Geometry, we'll grab the head face plane. And then down here in our peg file, we'll grab the top plane. And I'll add a mate to those so that those will be collinear, coincident. Okay, so that adds a mate, and I could drag this over closer to where I want it to be. And I could actually go ahead and just mate the origin of this guy to this point on that sketch. Click OK. And now our peg is mated into place right where it should be. I can go back up here and hide my master model completely so it's out of the way, but my peg is in the right spot. And what's nice about this now is that I have a front, a top, and a right plane that are all right in the right place for that object. You can also see its origin is right in the right place, but I have that original surface exactly as it was in the master model, right the way I want it, just so we can start to model this peg.